Prime Minister, last week David Cameron told the House of Commons that in the UK's dealings with Iran, it is going to have, and I quote, a very clear eye and a very hard heart. Now, UK diplomats here have regularly given your government assurances that it is not naive in its dealings with the Iranians in these talks. Why don't you believe them? What do you know that they don't?
I think the crucial question is not what we know, but what we seek. What we seek is a good deal or no deal. Now, what's a good deal? A good deal is the one that was done in Syria. In the case of Syria, the chemicals, the materials for weapons, and the means to make the weapons were dismantled and removed. What Iran is seeking from Britain and the P5+1 is to keep the materials and the means to make nuclear weapons and inspect them. Keep and inspect as opposed to dismantle and remove. That's a bad deal. And I think what it would mean is that Iran at any time could kick the inspectors aside or deceive them. It's done that in the past. And go rush to make the enriched uranium that is necessary to make atomic bombs. And they can do that within weeks or months. That's bad for Britain, bad for Europe, bad for the United States, bad for Russia, bad for China, very bad for Israel, bad for the Arabs too, bad for the world.
This has been your position for some time. Mm-hmm. Is there any truth in the Hebrew reports today which is suggesting you're softening your approach and that you would be prepared to see Iran keep hold of a few hundred centrifuges?
No, my position from the start has been they shouldn't have any capacity to enrich because they don't need it for civilian nuclear energy. They don't need a single centrifuge. It's been the Western position that they should have a few hundred. Now we hear that the P5+1 are talking now about 1,500. But that's the spinning centrifuges. They say, well, maybe they'll have also several thousand, many thousands of centrifuges, not spinning, but in formaldehyde, sort of, or locked under lock and key. Okay, one day Iran decides to break the lock and key, breakout as they say, put all these thousands of centrifuges together, and they'll have the wherewithal to make a nuclear bomb in a very short time. That's a deal that Iran wants. It's a deal of surrender. And the P5+1 should reject it out of hand. They should not enable Iran to make nuclear weapons.
Why do you think they haven't rejected it?
I think that there has been a theory that somehow Iran is entitled to national dignity. That national dignity means that they can make atomic bombs. Well, Syria is entitled to national dignity, but its national dignity doesn't mean that it can make chemical weapons or chemical bombs. I think we have to be clear that we'll cross a line of history that will transcend anything else that we're seeing in the Middle East, and God knows we're seeing a lot. If one of these warring tribes, either militant Sunnis or militant Shiites, in this case the militant Shiites led by Iran, get their hands on nuclear weapons, the world will be forever changed. Because Iran is run by an unforgiving sect. It puts forward frontmen, smiling people, reasonable spokesmen like Rouhani, but it's governed with an iron hand and with an iron heart by this man Khamenei. And if Khamenei gets nuclear weapons, the world's ultimate terror regime, Iran, that sends terrorists to 5 continents, will have the weapons of ultimate terror. They shouldn't have it.
If Iran is as dangerous as you are saying now and as you have been saying for many years, why hasn't Israel used its right to unilateral action like you have talked about before? Is it because that actually Israel isn't capable of stopping nuclear programs in Iran on its own?
Well, I never talk about our capabilities, you know that. I'll be the last Israeli standing who never does. But I think that what we have done is help mobilize the world to understand the greatness of this problem and also to launch sanctions, tremendous sanctions against Iran that have had their effect. That's why Iran is at the table now, at the negotiating table. My point is, you still have that tremendous leverage over Iran because its economy is groaning under the remaining sanctions, still groaning. Use it. Don't let them have the means to have a nuclear bomb in a short time.
But when they are bleeding cash in Iraq, they are bleeding cash in Syria, isn't now exactly the time to push for a diplomatic deal?
And yeah, a good one. The objective is not the deal. The objective is the objective, to make them dismantle their capabilities.
Why do you have so little confidence in the West being able to do that?
Well, I hope that they do the right thing. That's why I'm giving this interview, among other things, and talking to the United States and Britain and France and Germany and Russia and China, and we're sending delegations to all these countries to try to ensure that the deal is a good one, and better no deal than a bad deal.
Can I ask one final question in relation to Hamas? Clearly, the tensions have been increasing significantly. Action was taken in the Gaza Strip overnight. Is the next step a military operation of greater significance inside Gaza? Is that your next target for Hamas?
Well, my first goal is to get these three teenagers, these three innocent boys who were kidnapped on their way from school to their parents. I want to get them back home safely. That's number one, and we're continuing our efforts there. Second thing is to dismantle the Hamas infrastructure in the West Bank, and we've done quite a bit on that. We've not sought to engage Hamas militarily in Gaza, but we've been attacked from Gaza repeatedly, so we take actions to defend ourselves. If Hamas continues to attack or allow attacks against Israel from Gaza, then we will increase our efforts accordingly.
Do you think increasing that and playing into this cycle of violence assists the efforts to find the missing Israelis? Do you risk escalating it, as certain Western governments have warned you against?
We're trying to contain our efforts to the search of the three boys, but obviously if we get pounded, our communities, our towns, our cities are pounded by rockets and missiles that come from Gaza-controlled, Hamas-controlled Gaza, we'll take action. Who wouldn't?